Good morning. It's 7:04. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, and it's time to rise in freedom. Hurricane Ian is currently battering the west coast of Florida, causing storm surges as high as 18 feet. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has warned there will be damage across the entire state. Ian is one of the most powerful storms ever recorded in the United States. Theme parks have been shuttered, and DeSantis has warned it will be a nasty couple of days. It was reported that Cuba's entire electrical grid went down. We'll keep an eye on the story as it's developing this morning. Please keep the affected people in your thoughts and in your prayers. Up first this morning, Hal Dooley joins me in studio to discuss calls to blame hurricanes on climate change. I'll play audio of a climate change activist's advice to us all and a clip from the Prime Minister of New Zealand and her war on misinformation over it. Then at 7:30 this morning, Neetu Arnold joins me to discuss her article on why student loan debt forgiveness isn't the answer. You'll hear her solutions to the debt crisis, and we'll talk about the value of a college degree. And at 8 a.m., Camelia Peterson is ticked. The Missouri Department of Transportation wants the nanny state to ban texting while driving. I can't wait to hear Hal's thoughts on that one. Despite there already being laws against distracted driving, statists at MoDOT want to send hither more swarms of officer to eat out our substance. More road pirates collecting more revenue. We'll discuss at 8. And at 8:30, it's Big Brain time. The president lies about guns again. JD Tuchili of Reason Mag joins us for another segment of Big Brain time. All that and more on this special episode of the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Joining me now live in studio is Hal Dooley. Good morning, Hal. How are you,
Good morning. I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate having you here.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, so I've got this clip that I'm gonna play for you. Yesterday, when Hurricane Ian was battering the coast, people immediately started to make it political. Conversations were being had. I thought it was interesting, though, Hal, that hashtag climate scam was actually trending on Twitter. So for once, people on our side of the aisle were getting a word in edgewise. I'm going to play this clip. This is from the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and I want you to take a listen to what she has to say about combating, well, probably what you and I are going to talk about on climate change. Take a listen.
This week we launched an initiative alongside companies and nonprofits to help improve research and understanding of how a person's online experiences are curated by automated processes. This will also be important in understanding more about mis- and disinformation online, that we must, as leaders, address. Sadly, I think it's easy to dismiss this problem as one in the margins. I can certainly understand the desire to leave it to someone else. As leaders, we're rightly concerned that even the most light-touch approaches to disinformation could be misinterpreted as being hostile to the values of free speech that we value so highly.
How could that ever be?
But while I cannot tell you today what the answer is to this challenge, I can say with complete certainty that we cannot ignore it. To do so poses an equal threat to the norms we all value. After all, how do you successfully end a war if people are led to believe the reason for its existence is not only legal but noble? How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists? How do you ensure the human rights of others are upheld when they are subjected to hateful and dangerous rhetoric and ideology?
That's you and me.
The weapons may be different.
Absolutely.
But the goals of those who perpetuate them is often the same: to cause chaos and reduce the ability of others to defend themselves, to disband communities, to collapse the collective strength of countries who work together. But we have an opportunity here to ensure that these particular weapons of war do not become an established part of warfare.
Okay, let's pause that for a moment.
I'm acutely aware of how easy it is to feel disheartened.
So she's saying here that the internet is a weapon of war. This is her UN speech. The Prime Minister of New Zealand calls for a new type of internet here with rules and transparency, right? How do you tackle climate change if they don't believe it exists? They want to basically create a new internet, Hal, that won't allow people like you and I to have these kinds of conversations on the air. Your thoughts?
Well, and I agree with you. I imagine that they're taking away from the playbook of Facebook and the rest of the United States media with regard to, I guess, free speech empowers falsehoods, out and out lies, misinformation. I think that's all protected according to her. And that's what we should believe. Whatever they say, we should believe unchallenged. And we cannot, as you know, we've espoused this for a long time, we cannot criticize or challenge anything that they say. Of course, I'm a racist and I'm a white Anglo-Saxon male, and I've got privilege and all this and that, and
Well, what's interesting is that she sees, misinformation or people saying things that go against,
their
the official
beliefs.
narrative. They see that as a threat, that
Yes,
we're using the internet, as we are now, as a weapon of war. But what they don't see as a threat is creating a new type of internet that would prevent you and I from being able to have these kinds of conversations. That's not a threat. That because they only have the best intentions while they ascribe to us the worst possible intentions.
they have biased intentions. They don't have best intentions.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
Yes, I know what you're saying.
right. And so, the internet, it's a weapon of war, all right, but they want to just weaponize it for themselves and again, prevent us from being able to have these kinds of conversations. But every single time there's a weather event like Hurricane Ian happening right now, every single time no matter what it is, but no before before the bodies have been laid in the ground, right? The deaths are attributed to climate change, right? Why is this, Hal?
It's just irritating. It
Mhm.
is. I mean, we've had hurricanes for years and years and years, probably ever since the beginning of creation of Earth.
Mhm.
You've had that type of situation. But anytime we have anything that's an anomaly outside of normal weather patterns, it's climate change, and it is climate change. But it's not bad climate change. That's just what we have to live with. We talk about Mother Nature. Leave Mother Nature alone. She's going to do her thing when she does it. I like some of the narratives yesterday with regard to Florida, and it's very, very unfortunate what's going on. But if you're going to live 10 feet away from the ocean down there in Naples,
Oh,
and
yes.
you're going to accept the consequence. I remember when I was coming out of the Marine Corps, all the rainstorms in California and Topanga Canyon up in North LA County, and all these $1 million houses on stilts, just dropping down on the mud slides in the canyons, and people are saying how horrible that was. But if you wouldn't build on unstable sides of canyons, you wouldn't have that malady. And I don't. But that's climate change. If we take care of the climate, we wouldn't have any problems with houses on stilts on the side of canyons and anchored in mud.
John Stossel did an episode about this once. I think it was like back in the 1990s when he was talking about, how he had a house on the
Hmm.
beach in Florida, and at the time the only flood insurance that you could get was this federal flood insurance, right? So it was basically the U.S. taxpayers were paying people to build houses out in the sand, so that whenever there was a huge storm, the U.S. taxpayer was essentially on the hook to pay for rich people. How it's
Yeah.
not poor people that are living on the beaches in these really nice houses. These are very wealthy people. I mean, I know there's probably poor people in Naples, Florida, and Sarasota and stuff like that. But I mean, the fact is it's getting very expensive to live down there. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who are going to voluntarily go in there and help those people. But the personal responsibility aspect has to be discussed, Hal. I mean, it's tough at a time like this, when people are suffering to have it. But I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because for a long time, how people were afraid to breach that subject, but I think it needs to be discussed.
And then they complain that they can't get flood insurance or hazardous weather insurance to protect themselves. I'll be curious. My good friend Kurt Fisher, who owns Fisher Auto Body,
Hmm.
has a nice place down at Naples. I've not talked to him, but it'll be interesting to talk to him or his two sons over at the auto body shop about what the impact so far has been on his particular residence down there, or summer house, whatever you want to call it, in Naples. And I used to spend a lot of time down at Fort Myers. My son lived down there, but he moved back, unfortunately. And there's a lot of coastal areas down there, like you said, that people have built. And now they're looking, I won't say for a handout, but looking for help beyond their self responsibility to make things right again after it's all over with. And I think that's what you just espoused about.
If you're just tuning into this show, you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. I've got Hal Dooley here in studio with me right now. Hal, you are a U.S. Marine veteran. You were also the head of the Department of Veterans Affairs here in the state of Missouri.
Missouri Veterans Commission.
Missouri Veterans Commission as well. So you've got a history of public service. For those who are a little bit curious about Hal Dooley's bio, he's not just some random guy I pick it up off the street in here. He's an expert. He's he's also a lobbyist, and he's also got his own talk radio show on Saturdays, the Saturday morning show with Hal Dooley, which you can find over at my alma mater, KWOS. You can find Hal Dooley on there. What time is your show in the mornings on Saturday,
8
Hal?
a.m. to 9 a.m.
8 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's a great show. You definitely want to tune in. It's a lot of good, like, local Jefferson City stuff, which is where we're broadcasting the Wake Up America show from. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Hal, one of our listeners over on the live stream, was talking about free speech. Chris Morrill said that Americans are frequently surprised to learn that free speech is the exception rather than the rule around the world. I mean, places like New Zealand and Australia during the pandemic, you saw that free speech doesn't exist around the world.
No, it does not.
And we have a hard time defending it here in the United States, don't we?
We do. And we had a discussion last night with some friends with regard to that a lot of our young people don't realize just what the impact of socialism, communism, restricted free speech really means. I mean, we've grown up probably in a very permissive society with all kinds of freedoms, and now they're spouting, and I don't know where it's coming from. I know where it's coming from, misinformation and all the things.
People take the freedom for granted. How?
Oh, they do.
Because they live these comfortable lives that once you get comfortable and once you get fat, once you're used to, sort of living a certain type of lifestyle, you think, well, can things be better? Well, of course things can always be better. And that's when the allure of socialism, and typically through, like, the savior complex, right? We're gonna save the world. We're all gonna save the world. As a matter of fact, go ahead, make your point. I'm gonna pull up a clip.
Well, I'm going to talk about privilege again with regard to wealth and having money and having success are bad things, that they're not entitled to that. But we don't talk about what it took and the risks that those people take to get to where they are. Most people have not enjoyed wealth without having experienced a lot of hard work, a lot of extraordinary time, and extraordinary luck to get where they are. And now people think that's bad. That's bad that you've got a lot of money. That's bad that you've got a business, and you should be paying, more of your money that you've earned against everybody else. Now I'm going to sit back and do nothing, and I want part of that benefit. And I get tired of that.
I agree. I agree with you, Hal. Anna DePalm over on the Facebook live stream this morning says, honestly, if the government stops trying to play God and constantly messing with the weather through HAARP, that may be a start. Nature is smarter than the government. If they think what nature is doing is worse now, if anything, it's because of that. You can send us a message either through a live stream this morning, or you can send us a text, 573-319-1586. All right, Hal, I've got a clip for you. This is a climate change activist, and I think she's in Australia, and she's got some advice for us. Take a listen.
For example,
so we would have to apply to have, like, approved events to be able to fly for.
Well, that's one thing that you could look at doing.
Am I allowed to go to Fiji? Is that necessary?
In the current climate crisis, I don't think that that's necessary.
When was the last time you were on a plane?
I'm not sure. Maybe a few months ago, to be honest.
Where'd you go?
Fiji.
Izzy! Izzy! Don't you care about the climate, Izzy?
Of course I care about the climate.
Not enough. You went to... you went to Fiji. Izzy, come on, mate. Are you serious?
So she's this climate change activist. She's saying you shouldn't
serious,
fly.
Izzy?
Only sanctioned trips.
Well, it's pretty
Are you still
ironic.
there?
It is pretty ironic, but to be honest, it's not really a trip that I wanted to go on, but I can't really get out of it because my
Why'd you
parents wanted
go?
to
She didn't want to go.
Why'd you go?
My parents wanted to go. I
Izzy!
didn't want to go.
How are you embarrassed that your parents did that to the planet and then forced you to do it as well?
Of course I'm not embarrassed.
Did you have a
you look
terrible
at the-
time?
Not really. I didn't have
Izzy Cook is the perfect example of, do as I say, not as I do, Hal. These are the climate change activists that say you should only be able to fly for very, approved or sanctioned trips. And yet, where did she go? She just got back from Fiji, right after she told the host that she shouldn't be doing trips like that. Oh, she didn't want to go to Fiji, Hal. Nobody ever wants to go to Fiji, right? That would be awful, right? It's the same thing, but it's the same mentality, right? The Leonardo DiCaprio with his private plane flying off to these climate change. They're all hypocrites, Hal. They're all hypocrites. And they wonder why we don't believe them, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, in the conversation, they just said, climate crisis. I don't know where the climate crisis is. Is climate change, climate crisis?
It's in your melanin. It's in your skin color.
Is it in my skin color?
You
Well,
need
yeah,
to
it all
pay
comes back to being
reparations.
racist.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
That's true.
How
But
dare you?
How dare you? How dare you?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hal, we got to go to a commercial break.
Okay.
Okay. When we get back, we'll continue this. But I have another story for you that I'm excited for you to respond to. Less than half of Trump voters say that losing candidates should concede elections. The left is freaking out about this. They're saying we're already a threat to democracy, Hal. I got your threat to democracy right here. We'll be back with more Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Don't do that out at night. Come holding over and don't do that all right. Come holding over out at night.
It's morning again in America. Our country is prouder and stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, it's 7:25. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can send us a text this morning at 573-319-1586. Sticking around with us in studio, having some fun, is Hal Dooley. Hal, good morning.
Good morning, Austin. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for sticking around. Glad to have you here, Hal. I've got an article that I wanted to share with you from Yahoo News, which is kind of a lefty news site these days. It starts like this. Nearly 2 years after Donald Trump launched his relentless and baseless assault on the legitimacy of the 2020 presidential election, a new Yahoo News YouGov poll, totally trustworthy, shows that less than half of Americans, now 46%, believe that candidates should commit in advance to accepting the results of this year's midterm elections. Instead, a majority of Americans say that candidates should not, 19%, or that they're not sure. Oh, Hal, it's the end of the world, bro. It's the end of the world.
How dare you?
They're not committing to accepting the outcome of an election before the election has happened. It's just, this is an assault on democracy, isn't it, Hal?
Foolish is what it is. You know, the technology, we just talked about that, the technology of balloting with regard to computerization and how things are counted leaves a lot to be desired with regard to just taking it on face value. And that's been the last two presidential races have been challenged, as you know. When Trump was first elected, the Democrats raised hell that wasn't a legitimate presidential balloting election.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when he got defeated, the Republicans said the same thing. And there's got to be some checks and balances on it. And I don't think there are some checks and balances.
Sorry about that.
Oh, I love that.
That's my next guest coming in. We're going to get Nidu Arnold here in just a few minutes to talk about student loan forgiveness. But what's amazing to me is the whole hypocrisy of all this. When I could pull up a million clips for you, Hal, of Democrats from the 2016 election who refused to concede and who refused to accept the outcome of the 2016 election. For 4 years, we had to listen to nothing but accusations that the election was stolen because of Russian hacking, Russian interference. But now, if you claim that the 2020 election was stolen, which I'm not doing, by the way, right here. I'm just saying that I'm pointing out the hypocrisy here. There's a double standard here when it comes to the mainstream media and what's allowable speech. How can you commit to accepting the outcome of an election before the election even happens,
You
Al?
can't. And even after the election, there's no validation of the last two elections, really. There's nobody that can say that there wasn't any shenanigans on either of the last two presidential elections. I haven't heard of any authority that's acceptable that said, yeah, we've checked everything out and it was a valid election and it's valid. We haven't heard that.
But I mean, it strikes me as ridiculous that they're already outraged that people aren't going to accept the outcomes of the election. It makes you feel as if they're working to rig the election when they say things like that.
I agree.
You have to accept in advance the outcome of an election that hasn't even happened yet. I mean, that's just some creepy kind of, I don't know, like. Well, how we can curse? I'd call that some commie bullshit.
You would, wouldn't you? But we're headed that way.
Perfect.
Keep your mouth shut.
Keep your mouth shut up already. Accept the outcome of an election that hasn't even happened yet. And then when it's over, if the Democrats lose, you know what we're going to hear, Hal? You know what we're going to hear to no end? Democrat crying. But I didn't have this little soundboard over here on our last show. You need to get you one of these little soundboards for your next show.
I'd love to have one of those.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Hal Dooley joining us here live and in studio. We're having a lot of fun already. I'm going to introduce you to a lovely lady by the name of Nidu Arnold, who's going to join us here in just a minute. And she's going to talk to us about why she thinks, as a young person, that student loan debt forgiveness isn't the way. Are you excited, Hal?
Well, I am.
Are you?
I agree with that
All right.
assumption.
Is the studio audience excited? Wow. Oh, they're very excited. Yeah, good. I guess we're going to have to go introduce ourselves to Nitu Arnold. Nitu Klatu Baratu. I can't wait to introduce you to my friend Nitu Arnold. She's going to be here in just about 5 minutes on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Austin's wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupamericashow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion, delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table, or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband Paul made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
morning at 7:34, and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. Forgiving student loan doesn't solve the crisis. Here's what would. First things first, never let it happen again, writes my next guest, Neetu Arnold, who's joining us on camera right now. Her latest article just appeared in The Spectator. She's joining us to talk about the student loan crisis. Good morning, Neetu. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Glad to have you here. So explain to us your thesis. Why would you, as a young person, not be in favor of student loans? It's free stuff, right?
Yeah, it's free. It's never really free. Somebody is always paying for this. And this is a large wealth transfer from people who do not receive the benefits from a college degree to people who do. And again, there's a lot of individual choices that come into play here when it comes to choosing which college you go to. And that really shouldn't be left up to the taxpayer. I would also say that debt forgiveness doesn't address the root problem of why college has become so expensive. It's also not going to address this problem we're going to have to deal with again in potentially 6 years, around 2028. That's when it's estimated that we will return to the current $1.6 trillion of outstanding student loan debt that we have. So this is not addressing the root problem. And it's also, again, it's unfair.
Al, you were saying during the commercial break that your wife is really livid about this. She's not happy about this whole thing.
Well, because it's inequitable. Number one, she knew what she was getting into. She voluntarily, willingly got the loans. When she did get the loans, she knew that she was responsible for paying them back. And she did pay them back. And she got her college education. The loan's been paid back, and she's happy.
Yeah.
But she doesn't like the idea of taking this time frame, and paying off student debt. And I agree with Neetu that it's very inequitable.
I mean, Neetu, I think a lot of people are justifiably outraged over this. Don't
Yes.
you agree?
Absolutely. Again, it's not addressing the problem. I think what frustrates a lot of people on this particular issue is that we're talking about public funds here, and we're not seeing it put to good use. The federal student loan system is there aren't any checks in place. There aren't checks or balances in place. So there isn't a way to tell whether a student has the ability to repay their loans or finish their programs. And so for a lot of this is just handing out loans without any expected return, and the taxpayer is expected to remain on the hook. And so one idea I have to fix this issue, it's very simple. It's to condition federal student loan lending to things like the return on investment of a degree or the academic preparation of a student, such as those that we see through test scores. I want to emphasize conditioning federal loans on academic preparation specifically, because a lot of the issues we see with the student debt crisis is we have a lot of people that are going to college who may not be academically prepared, and then some of them will drop out. So they are getting all the debt, but none of the benefits of the degree. We also see people who may enter college, they enter a degree with a high return on investment, but then college becomes difficult and they switch to an easier major, which may have a lower return on investment. So again, in the end, they took out federal student loans, but when they graduate, the economic returns are not there. And I think that's the issue here.
Neetu, if you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Neetu Arnold. Her article is up on the Spectator, Spectator magazine, about how we can avoid this crisis in the future, the student debt crisis. Neetu, can you talk to us about what policymakers doing? Have any politicians actually proposed any legislation that might prevent something like this from happening going forward?
Yeah, so the Real Reforms Act was proposed by lawmakers against President Biden's proposal of targeted debt forgiveness. One specific provision that I like in this bill is that it would curb executive authority to forgive these kind of debts again. And I think that's what we need, because the way this decision was made was it's questionable. We don't know the constitutionality of this. I mean, there's a lawsuit right now that's questioning whether the Biden administration could use their executive authority rather than leaving this decision up to Congress. And again, as I said earlier, we're going to have to deal with this issue again. If we don't curb executive authority at some point, it may not happen in the next couple of months, and we need to wait for the results from the midterm elections. But if we don't address this soon, then the doors have been opened for more debt forgiveness. And so again, this could happen again.
You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. We're speaking to Neetu Arnold about her article in The Spectator. Hal Dooley is still joining me in studio. Hal, I thought it was interesting, the president, he said that the coronavirus pandemic was over, and yet he doesn't want to give up his emergency powers and authorizations for things like this.
You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, he can, right? It's the power of the imperial presidency.
And Neetu brought up a very interesting point, very valid point, on the constitutionality of some of these executive orders, and they need to be curtailed or challenged to make sure specifically that they aren't abused. And personally, I think they're being abused right now, or at least stretched way beyond what the original intent was.
What do you think federal student loans should be based on in terms of the criteria for how we should determine who gets a federal student loan? Neetu?
Yeah, so I think first it should be based on a student's academic preparation, just so that we don't have loans going to people who we could expect they wouldn't do well in school. But the second thing would be the return on investment, the potential earnings over the course of several years. I think when it comes to federal funding, it should go to people where we would see great benefit. That's the point of public funds. We should see public benefits. And an example would be right now we have a shortage in domestic STEM workers, people working in science, technology, engineering, and math. We could see great investment if federal loans just went to those students, for example. I mean, those degrees have high return on investment. We would benefit from more workers in those fields. And so to me, that seems like a win-win situation. That's how public funds should work. It shouldn't be going to psychology majors who don't even end up working in psychology because either due to underemployment or because the field is too saturated.
Now, I could see the outrage from the left on making that kind of proposal.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like the kind of determinations that would be made if you were a moneylender in the private market and you were making a decision based on the ability of the person to repay a loan. It sounds almost like a free market style solution.
That'd be terrible if we did something like that, wouldn't it?
I don't know about that, Neetu. You're starting to try and apply free market principles to government thinkers, and
horror.
The horror. If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, we're speaking to Neetu Arnold about student loan debt forgiveness. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Neetu, is there anything else of importance on this topic that you think that our listeners should know about it?
I mean, I really wanted to get the point across that we really need to condition federal student loans to outcomes, to the kind of preparation students receive. But I also think people should be keeping an eye out on the current lawsuit that's been filed by the Pacific Legal Foundation. That's going to be in the news. There's probably going to be more lawsuits happening. Now, my view on that, I think there are two things that this particular lawsuit is trying to address. There's one where they want to address the injury aspect. So by participating in the debt forgiveness program, are there more harms created? Which in this particular lawsuit, I'm not sure about that. I think that's going to be a very difficult case to make. But then there's a second aspect, which is the constitutionality. No president has ever used their executive authority to forgive student debt. We have used it to delay payments, and there's a big difference between delaying repayments because of a national emergency or war, where maybe a soldier their first priority may not be paying off their student loan debt because they're fighting in a war. But there's a big difference between that and just outright forgiving student loan debt, and the potential precedents it could set if nothing is done about it right now.
That's Nitu Arnold, whose article in The Spectator you can read, and it's titled "Forgiving Student Loan Debt Doesn't Solve the Crisis. Here's what would." You can follow Nitu Arnold. What's your Twitter account, Nitu, so people can follow you there?
Yeah, my Twitter handle is NEETU_Arnold.
Nitu Arnold, her first appearance on the show. How do you think she did? Nitu, thank you very much for coming on the program today. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow. Okay, so what did you think, studio audience? Was that good or what? Did we like Nitu? Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. We'll definitely have to have her back. Hal, what did you think?
Well, and she's right, and she's dwelling on the economic consequences of the loan forgiveness. But there's two sides to this. You know that, and I know that, and that is the administration really didn't give a damn about the economic realities of this, and that's what it should be. But
they're buying votes. They're buying votes.
That's what I was going to say. Let's look at the other side. Let's look at the political reality of this. This is where my wife and a lot of us are upset about.
Go off, Hal. Go off.
It's buying votes, and it's just killing us. And I don't have the answer other than people need to start challenging this type of stuff. And to me, it's just an out and out buyout. And a lot of stuff that this administration is doing is to draw favoritism. I mean, the open borders from Mexico the same way.
Yeah.
Is to get more Hispanics in. I'm glad that the established Hispanic community in the United States is starting to push back on that type of concept. They just want us here for our votes. That's what they want us to be balling to the Democrats who opened the borders and got us in, irrespective of the reality, the consequences of all the bad things that are happening as a result of the open borders, with the drug side of it, the cartel side of it, the sexual slavery side of it. I mean, those
sexual slavery,
absolutely.
You know?
You got a voiceover for
you know what we need, Hal, more than
we don't need heavy breathing on this show. We really don't. We can do that. We can do that ourselves. Okay.
You know what we need?
Good morning.
We need this. We need
Donald Trump. If you can hear us, please, Donald Trump, please save me. Please save me, Donald Trump. Please. I'm asking you.
I need a quarter for a cup of coffee.
Please save me. Please get these.
Are you enjoying the Wake Up America show today? What do you think? Give us a like. If you're following us on socials, maybe you're on YouTube or maybe you're on Facebook this morning, like the stream, share it with your followers. Give the page a little share. Give us a little share. Let's bump up the audience. We've got a lot of people watching today. I think it looks like the most we've ever had on the Wake Up America show.
That's good.
That's because of Hal Dooley's beautiful face. I'm sure it is.
My face isn't beautiful at all.
We'll be back with more Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you, Ben.
Had enough yet? Do facts no longer matter?
our lies to be encouraged instead of punished, this is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts, on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning. It's 7:51 on the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Glad to have you here. Hal Dooley sticking around in studio. Good to see you, Hal. Let's give him a cheer.
Good to be here. All right.
Everybody loves seeing Hal Dooley here this morning. Glad to have you. Looks like people really enjoyed the interview with Neetu Arnold. We'd like to get lots of young people on the show, but we also like to hear from the older generation as well. That's why we have Hal here.
Neetu gives you cause for, I'd say, positive impact on society. Young people really doing their homework and really studying issues.
Yeah.
And getting to it. We need more people like her.
Absolutely.
A lot more people like her.
Listeners are texting in today at 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman weighed in and said that the colleges and universities are criminally predatory in their facilitation of student debt. Isn't that funny though, when you talk about credit cards and all these loans, you'll hear people like Elizabeth Warren talking about how predatory these banks are and these predatory, payday loan lenders and stuff like that. But they never call the universities predatory for trying to get people in to study gender studies degrees and all this kind of stuff that they're never going to use.
See, my wife says that all the time, that, as we continue to subsidize colleges and universities, they continue to increase their tuitions. And it's the universities themselves of higher learning that are causing a lot of this by inordinate amount of tuition costs. And their faculty, how much of their faculty actually does teaching? That's always been a problem. I got some instructor teaching me in basic economics while a professor of economics is out there doing research and making $300,000 a year. Now, that's what we're paying for. But what good do we get out of that?
Another listener texted in, Hal, and they had to say that college applications should be assigned a number and include no demographic info, so only top students are enrolled. Online education has cheapened education and made degrees worth less. Your thoughts?
I don't know. I have not seen any empirical evidence one way or another. My grandson is taking online courses and stuff, and he's a good student. And he'll benefit from it. And I think there are certain applications and we'll find out eventually as you get an online degree and you go out and you have to perform in the workplace on how valid it is. And I think they're worth looking at. and doing it now. I think there are challenges because of the checks and balances with regard to who really knows if they're learning or not. We just went through that with the COVID crisis with at-home learning and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not so down on online
I'm not
education
either.
because I honestly, everything that I've learned, like that's been useful for my career, like I would say maybe 90% of it has been me self-learning and self-educating myself on YouTube.
And that's where the key is. You've got to be self-disciplined to be able to want to learn.
Which in that case, it's like, most people don't need to go to college. I mean, the only reason that you kind of need to go to college is just to kind of check off that box for employers who are going to use that as a way to kind of to discriminate against people who, they think are worth less. But I mean, I'm seeing more and more how I'm reading articles from, top tech firms, Microsoft, and many of these, big tech firms even are, and Elon Musk has talked about this, not requiring a college degree, that, skills are all that matter. Because I mean, at the end of the day, skills are all that matter, Hal,
Well, and it does. And let's talk about our own backyard at Lynn with state tech and a 2-year associate's degree in the technology. Instead of waiting until your junior and senior year to get the courses in your discipline, state tech and a lot of these technical colleges, you go right into it, whether it's welding, whether it's engineering, whether it's technology. You and I've talked about that with regard to broadcasting and pushing buttons and stuff. It's hard to find people that do push buttons. You and I can talk into the microphone all day long. We've got that skill set. Don't know how good it is, but we've got that skill set. But to work a board, a broadcasting board, is not easy.
No, it's not. As I'm, sitting here, I'm, pushing all these buttons here, trying to get everything to work right properly. It's a lot of work, because I'm trying to focus on the
and
content.
It's a
and
skill
all
that has to be learned.
Yeah, it is. And, and I'm looking to hire somebody to train them up to learn how to do this. But, and I actually did reach out to Lynn Tech to see if I could find somebody out there. It's the best technical college in the United States, I think. I've
It's
heard
rated as the best. And you don't need a BS or a BA from college in order to be technological proficient to be able to do the job and make some good money.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to find somebody really soon.
And I think you will.
You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. One listener texted in and said, anyone can get a master's degree from Fly-By-Night University.
But,
or Trump University. And then
I know. There's always bad in everything, but
Yeah.
there's also a lot of good online universities that really want to give the opportunity to learn. And that's the outcome. I mean, we can talk about this all day long, but unless you learn something when you go through all of this, you're not going to get employed. And if you do get employed, you're not going to last very long if you cannot produce. I mean, that's the checks and balances right there.
Yeah, there's a story that we talked about yesterday. This is a little bit of a change of subject, but do you know who Russell Brand is by any chance? So he's kind of this big. He was like I wouldn't say rock star. I guess he was like a comedian. He's a British guy, and he decided to move all of his video broadcasting and streaming and everything, his show, which he's got like 5 million followers for, his show to this new platform called Rumble. Have you heard about this platform called Rumble?
No.
You might like it, Hal. So basically they're an alternative to big tech that likes to censor shows like mine and viewpoints like mine. Russell Brand had put out a video that big tech didn't like, and so they censored him and they shut it down. And he even admitted later that one of the things that he said was on the show was incorrect, right? And he offered to take the video down, but YouTube gave him this big strike. So he's moved over to this new platform, Rumble. And I'm about 2 followers away from getting 100 followers on Rumble. It's a new platform for me. We are streaming live over there. If you're connected to Rumble, or if you have an account on Rumble, I'd like to ask you today to give us a subscribe over on Rumble. And if you're on rumble.com this morning, drop us a comment and introduce yourself. We'd love to know who you are. Now, what kind of people are watching Rumble? Because of course the Cantina crew is over on Facebook and the live stream. If you're watching the show right now as it's live, you can see the live chat that's pulled up there, and it shows you which platform people are coming in from. Now, Rumble hasn't been integrated yet to come up on your screen, but you will see YouTube over there. So if you're on YouTube, drop a comment and your comment will appear up on the show screen. Right now, what we see is all of our friends on Facebook, and I do love my Facebookers, but I'd love to hear from our YouTubers and our Rumblers this morning. And if there's anybody on Twitch as well, Twitch is integrated, so your comment would pop up on the stream. We'd love to hear from you. The more comments that we get, Hal, the more interaction, the more we spread out on the networks. But Rumble is sort of like my backup plan for the day that I think eventually YouTube is going to crack down on people like us from being able to broadcast. Go ahead.
Austin, this is all new to an old Neanderthal like me.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to these platforms and stuff that are coming in. But how do you get the information out beyond the internet for people to be able to use these and use a platform like Rumble?
Well, so Rumble, they actually have an app that you can download, the Rumble app.
Okay.
And so what I would recommend is that people go ahead and download that. I'm going to go during the commercial break, and I'm going to drop a referral link from Rumble that I'll post in the show, so that in the Facebook live stream and in the YouTube live stream. So please use my referral link if you don't mind. That helps me get a little bit more credit for bringing people over to the platform. I'd be super grateful. Hal, you got to run, don't you?
Yes, I do.
That sucks.
Unfortunately, I got to go to the VA.
Okay.
Veterans Administration.
He's got to go to the VA. Can we give Hal a big round of applause? Hal, we love having you on the show, man. We got to get you on more often.
Being here.
We appreciate all your insight and perspective. No, we like to have young people on the show. We like to have older people on the show, and then I'm the middle-aged guy on the show. So
you are the middle-aged guy.
That's right. Hal, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you. You did a great job today.
Thank you very much.
You're awesome.
Look forward to being back.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have you back. Well, what did you think about Hal Dooley? If you liked Hal, then give him a like. Right? Yeah. Like us in the stream. Like the show. Right? Share it on Facebook. Give us a bunch of likes. I'm going to drop that Rumble referral link over in all the live streams when we go to a commercial break. And then when we get back, it's going to be Camellia Peterson.
Camelia's
going to be here joining us. In 5 minutes, we're going to talk to Camellia Peterson, and she's not happy with MoDOT. And how you're just going to have to deal with us talking smack about MoDOT.
Yeah, I guess.
Sorry about that. Yeah, all
Depends on what it is.
It's about texting while driving. We'll talk about all that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Diddy's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. but as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans.
Real-world experience.
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
In case you didn't already know, the British monarchy, unlike its non-royal constituents, is legally exempt from paying income tax, capital gains tax, and inheritance tax. A specific British statute allows inheritance to pass from, quote, sovereign to sovereign without being taxed, to avoid depleting the royal family's wealth if two monarchs die in quick succession. Therefore, King Charles will not have to pay the regularly applied 40% tax on the $300 million plus fortune he has inherited from the Queen, but he has chosen to follow his mother's lead in voluntarily paying income tax. The monarchy cost British taxpayers the equivalent of $118 million during 2021, a 17% increase from the previous fiscal year, according to figures for the Sovereign Grant, which funds the Queen, now King, and the household's official expenses.
Good morning, it's 8:06 and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's time to rise and freedom. Should we ban texting while driving? The Missouri Department of Transportation head Patrick McKenna yesterday made a strong push here in the state of Missouri for us to stop people from engaging in such dangerous and risky behaviors. Is this about our freedom or is safety more important? Let's talk to my good friend Camelia Peterson, who's joining us on the line. Good morning, CJ. How are you today?
Good morning. Doing well, thank you.
Glad to have you here, CJ. You were pissed, CJ. You were livid when you were DMing me very angrily yesterday with this whole story. You want to set this up for our audience and then just go off, Queen?
Well, I guess they had some kind of a meeting, and there were a lot of people there. It was a transportation conference, and so Lieutenant Governor was there, and of course they were talking about this road safety and all those kind of issues. And one of the things that was reported on was that they were talking about safety while, and including texting and driving, license plate readers, so on and so forth. And it was noted that the MoDOT director, Patrick McKenna's top priority is banning texting and driving. We attempted to do this, well, not we, but this was attempted last session as well. And what's really interesting to me is that when Director McKenna came on, he did an interview during something, it was on the radio last spring. And he outright said that when you talk about fatalities on the highways in Missouri, that and this is the number I found yesterday too, that I've been seeing go around, is over 60% of those are people who are not wearing their seatbelts. There's been nothing else that I've seen that is backing up this push for texting and driving being like a leading factor in accidents or, fatalities. And maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm wrong, they're not putting the data out there. In fact, I was looking, I did a little bit of digging, because it's important to be accurate. But, when they talk about, one of the things they talked about was that fatalities have been on the rise. But they don't talk about any of the other factors. And so I looked, and fatalities have risen from 2014. I think the number for Missouri was 791. And then we went up slowly, 15, 16, 17. We actually, and it's been gradual. Actually, for 21, we actually dropped it down. So by the time we reached 2020, we were at 902 from 791 in 2014. We dropped back down to 871 in 2021. But my question is that there's no other information there. Has the volume of drivers on the road increased? I mean, what other factors are at play in that? And like I said, there's nothing that's been clearly indicating that they have been putting out there that texting specifically has anything to do with that. And we have distracted driving laws.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But here's the thing, Camellia, and I thought this was interesting because at the same meeting where MoDOT director Patrick McKenna was talking about, banning texting while driving, they brought up the motorcycle helmet law here in the state of Missouri, which, Governor Mike Parson was very much for. He was the one who, I guess, signed the bill that made it so that, you don't have to wear a motorcycle helmet here in the state of Missouri. So is Governor Parson likely to sign a bill that would essentially go against that same principle?
I think it's unlikely. There was not, I mean, this legislation was filed in the last session and there was no appetite for it. I think that there was no support for it. I don't think it would have even come close. And the thing is that when I was looking at the numbers since that law was signed, the fatalities for motorcycle accidents have risen, but people are going to do what they're going to do. And you cannot control for everything. Yes, do we want to get fatality rates and accident rates down to zero? Of course. But you can't make people do that. More laws are not going to accomplish that.
Well, why don't they just write a law that says that cancer is illegal? You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to suspend, the laws of physics. There are going to be accidents. I don't know how much government policy is going to be able to, change the numbers here or there. But I mean, the fact is that this is a question of liberty and safety. And we're always having this debate, Camellia. And at the end of the day, you have to accept. And the problem is, and this is what the sort of the, I guess you might say the substance of the speech that I'm going to give down in Springfield next month at my old college is going to be about the price of liberty. And the thrust of that speech is going to be the discussion, and the difficult discussion, about we have to accept that the price of liberty is sometimes paid for with the blood of innocence. Not the soldiers, right? Conservatives love to rah about the flag and the soldiers paying the price, the ultimate price of liberty, and that is certainly true. But one of the things that I think people don't understand or are unwilling to accept is that dead motorists or dead motorcyclists might also be the price of liberty, isn't it?
Sure. And when you are looking at numbers, the serious injuries have declined over that same period of time that they were looking at fatalities rising. Serious injuries have declined. I'm sure there's lots of factor involved. The rates are higher for urban areas. Obviously, they've gone down in rural areas. And one of the things that was interesting that I have seen pop up in a few places now when, MoDOT is putting materials out there and they're talking about, this issue, is they are noting aggressive driving a lot. And so we talked about this the other day as far as people being seems like people are more angry, right now in general. And I'm sure that affects driving as well. And I'm on the road a lot. And there's some really stupid people on the road.
Okay, I'll give you that. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Camellia Peterson. Camellia Peterson is the editor of the Libertarian Republic. That's my website. We're talking about texting while driving. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Send us a text, 573-319 1586. That's 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman did just that. He said, admittedly, texting and driving is dangerous. That said, what expensive and intrusive powers would have to be granted to enforce a texting ban? Burn the remaining shreds of the Fourth Amendment? And Brandon Myers said over on the Facebook live stream, I've wondered, is it an extra charge they tack on? How do they know you're texting or instead of changing the iTunes song you're listening to? Do they demand to go through your phone? Is that an invasion of privacy? That's a good question there when you think about it. How are they going to enforce something like this when they say, no texting while driving? I mean, would the language of the bill really, Camellia, just be, no using your phone while you're driving at all? Like no typing at all while you're driving? Is that what it would be?
Sure. I don't know. I don't know yeah, you're right. I don't know what the enforcement mechanism would be. And if you are giving that as a cause for pulling someone over, then that adds a whole new layer of responsibility and judgment calls on law enforcement that I think makes their jobs more difficult. And it's a trade-off that I don't think is worth having. I think it actually unintended consequences. I think the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? And I think we would definitely pay for that for sure. But he's right. I mean, distracted driving, it's about personal responsibility. And I don't text and drive all the time. I'm not going to say that I don't do it. Any those who know me well know what I do and don't do. But here's the thing. You know what? I know my limitations, and I know that when I am driving, it's actually harder for me to talk on the phone and pay attention to where I'm going than it is other things. I cannot eat and drive. If I drive through a drive-through and I get something to eat, I'm stopping and eating before I get back on the roads because I know my limitations and what I can do and what I can't do while I'm driving. So personal responsibility.
While you're driving, Camellia?
No. Oh my word. I don't know how people do that.
If you're just tuning into the show, you can send us a text at 573-319-1586. We're talking to Camellia Peterson. One of our listeners texted in with a pretty good point, Camellia. They said texting is illegal here in Illinois. Whoa, Illinois. Geez. Wow. Sorry about that. They said they can add that to charges where applicable. They say they're okay with it because my use of a seatbelt or a helmet does not put anyone but me at risk, but texting does. Your response to that?
Well, I would say texting is the same as any other distracted driving. It is, I mean, you can, if we're going to apply this to texting, then we need to do all of the other dozens of things that distract people while they're driving. It's a redundant law. And, when on the states that have hands-free laws where you can't even hold your phone, to me, that makes no sense because most of the holders for your phone require you to look further away to remove your line of sight from the road to actually look at your phone, whether it's for the map or anything else. It doesn't matter if you're not texting. People are going to find all kinds of ways to get around this. They're going to do other things on their phone. It's not just texting. And I mean, are you going to say, well, you can voice text? Can we voice text? Or is it just, you can't type in text? So all kinds of things here. But I mean, personal responsibility. You have to do things in a way that you are responsible for your own behavior to be as safe as you possibly can on the road and considering other drivers as well.
It's my philosophy too. Camellia, is there anything else that you think our listeners should know before I let you go?
Well, I'll reiterate in Missouri, for Missourians, please keep contacting your legislators about this tax cut. Is going forward. The House will be taking it up and debating it today. And everybody just calm down about Lizzo playing the flute, okay?
If you have no idea what she's talking about, consider yourself very lucky. Camellia, editor of the libertarianrepublic.com. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. All right. Did you like Camellia? Well, give us a like on the stream if you did. Give her a big shout out. What do you say? How about a cheer? Love to hear from you on that one. Over on the live stream this morning, Chris Morrill says, a real challenge, eating a McRib while driving and not getting any sauce on you. It's a good one. Brandon Meyer says, I don't really eat while driving, but I make an exception for Go-Gurt. I slam the hell out of those. All right, we've got lots more great show to go. You don't want to miss a minute of the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Austin's wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion, delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table, or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Do not come. Do not come. Good morning. It's 8:23 on the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Still lots more great shows to go. We've got JD2 Chili from Reason Magazine to talk about President Biden lying about guns again. But first, before we do, I just wanted to share with you so that you could get a little bit of context what Camelia was talking about in the last segment when she was talking about Lizzo playing the flute. Stop being outraged over Lizzo playing the flute. I'm going to go ahead and transition over here. This is definitely some Twitter weirdness, but this is the video that everybody is talking about here. This is Lizzo, and that is a 200-year-old flute. It was owned by James Madison, who was the author of the Constitution. She's got a crystal flute.
It's crystal. It's like playing out of a wine glass, bitch. So be patient.
Here she is. Oh, there you go, girl. That's not bad. Okay, she's twerking while playing the flute. What are your thoughts on that one? Was that good, or was that... Send us a text at 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. People were outraged over that, but I mean, there's definitely a lot more things to be upset about. I mean, what do you think about that? Actually, I saw that Lizzo playing the flute. Apparently, there was a video that we didn't see of Lizzo playing the flute that was a much better representation of it, and she's actually dressed a little bit more appropriately. So let me go ahead and tell you what, I'm going to pull that clip up right now so you can see something that, is a little less outrageous, if you will. Let's go back over to our Twitter weirdness, and let's play this clip and see how you feel about it. Wow. So there she is. She's playing James Madison's flute. And that's beautiful. Now, you're not going to see this video on people who want to play the outrage game. That was fantastic. All right, so, I'm not outraged about Lizzo playing James Madison's flute that's, 200 years old. I'm outraged about communists trying to force us to, globalize our government and force us to live under an authoritarian regime. Exactly. Women playing a 200-year-old flute from James Madison doesn't bother me. But apparently it was, the kind of thing that just fed the outrage. People, you can send me a text. What do you think about it? 573-319-1586. Matt Unruh over on the live stream says, yeah, I've got more important things to worry about. Who cares about a flute? Good for you. What do you think? Again, text 573-319-1586. That was as outrageous as Kim Kardashian defiling Marilyn Monroe's dress. Boy, that one did get me a little bit hot, I'll tell you. I don't know how you feel about that one. But that one definitely bugged me. So if you don't know that story, just briefly, Kim Kardashian borrowed Marilyn Monroe's Happy Birthday, Mr. President dress and wore it to the Met Gala, and it was Tony Allegra said, AP must have known that I stopped paying attention for a moment because he sent the gulag after me. Brandon Myers says, yeah, good for her. I wouldn't care as long as people weren't always having to tell me I have to find her hot. Yes, that is literally the only thing that annoys me. Thank you very much. Exactly, Brandon. I feel the same way. Chris Morrill said, a flute with no holes is not a flute. A donut with no holes is a Danish. That's pretty good. Where did you get that? Is that like Mitch Hedberger-ism? Camellia Peterson over in the live stream says, Kardashian was worse. I think she tore it because she was too big for it. Yes. You should take good care of things. Now, if Lizzo had dropped that crystal flute and broken James Madison's crystal flute, then we would have something to be outraged about, right? Yeah, I agree. JD Tuchili is coming up next talking about President Biden lying about guns again, and more states are poised to ease marijuana laws after Election Day, including one state that you might know. Which state is it? I'll give you a little hint. It's on the edge of the screen over there right now. Can you make out what that is? Probably not. It's the one that's hidden. Wait, right there? That state. Yeah, that one. We'll talk about all that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks, need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
You have any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning. It's 8:33. You're watching the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson. It's time to rise and freedom. My next guest writes over at Reason Magazine that President Joe Biden lies about guns again. He says amidst official hysteria over, quote, misinformation, The president continues to willfully misrepresent the facts on firearms. His name is J.D. Tuccilli, and he's joining me on the phone right now. Good morning, J.D. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you here, J.D. So what's the president lying about in regards to guns again this time?
Well, the latest gaffe, which is the word we like to attach to his constant misstatements, is that the bullets fired from AR-15s travel 5 times the speed of those fired from other weapons. He said that a couple of times, in fact, and recently. And of course, it's not true. The 5.56 round, which is the most common round fired from an AR-15, is probably towards the high middle end of rounds fired from center fire rifles. I mean, it's fast. It packs a punch, but it's not especially fast relative to some other rounds. It's nonsense. And after he said it the first time, he was called out for speaking nonsense. He also said at that time that it would punch through a Kevlar vest, which is true, but it's also true of all rifle rounds. Kevlar vests aren't designed to stop rifle rounds. And the thing is, he keeps on doing this. He keeps on making these misstatements, which, okay, fine. A lot of people don't know what you're talking about. Firearms, in particular, tend to be technical and tricky for a lot of people. But he gets corrected on these things, and then he says the same thing over and over again. He said back in the spring that a 9 millimeter bullet will blow your lungs out. No, it won't. He said multiple times, dating back to the campaign trail, that Americans at the time of the Revolution and after the Constitution was passed weren't allowed to own cannon. Yes, they were. And in fact, they often did so to outfit local militia or privateer ships. He said that the firearms industry has special protection that nobody else enjoys from liability. Not true. You can sue a gun company, and the protections it enjoys are enjoyed by a lot of other industries. And he does this time and time again while being called out, not just by me, but by mainstream media like the Washington Post, the factcheck.org, and PolitiFact. So it's really obvious that this is willful and intended just to achieve a policy goal, and that he doesn't care about the truth.
So, if you're just tuning in, we're speaking to J.D. Tuccilli of Reason Magazine. His latest article, President Biden Lies About Guns Again, is over at reason.com. So, the statement is that we like to say, that you never attribute to malice what can easily be explained away by stupidity. But J.D., you claim that this is willful.
Well, it seems willful when you're being corrected not by partisans on the other side, but by mainstream media sources. And I don't think anybody believes that the White House doesn't read the Washington Post. And the Washington Post has repeatedly corrected him over the course of a couple of years on the same points. Factcheck.org, which is published by the Annenberg Public Policy Center, has also repeatedly corrected him on these points and points out that they've repeatedly corrected him and that it's wrong and incomprehensible that he keeps on repeating these mistakes. So, yeah, I think that we can either assume that it's willful or that perhaps he's really not compass mentis to the point that even his staff can't correct him, which would be a separate issue, but also a very concerning one. I think we can call these lies.
Agreed. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. What do you think about that? You can send us a text again, 573-319-1586. We're speaking to J.D. Tuccilli from Reason Magazine. I thought the whole cannon thing was hilarious because, people like to laugh and think about, you couldn't have owned a cannon back then, when so clearly you obviously could own a cannon back then. But in terms of what you can own today, I don't think anybody can deny, JD, that weapons are a lot more powerful today than they were back in the day. They didn't have nuclear weapons. They didn't have to deal with the threat of the destruction of all of humanity, JD. So it didn't used to be that a lone psychopath in the late 1700s could walk into a bar in Philadelphia and a flintlock pistol couldn't kill 30 people, right? Before they would rush you and take you down. So there are real new security considerations that have to be taken into effect, don't they?
Well, sure. I mean, is an AR-15 faster shooting than any rifle passed in that was available in 1776? It sure is. But again, cannon back then were used to commit awful acts. Britain to this day celebrates the defeat of the Guy Fawkes plot, in which Parliament was almost blown up with old-fashioned black powder. To this day, the worst school massacre was in the 1920s, committed not with firearms but with dynamite. So yes, I mean, are modern firearms more technically advanced, more individually powerful than firearms in that were available back then? They absolutely are. But weapons overall are dangerous, and people have been able to weaponize fire. They've been able to weaponize explosives. They've been doing all sorts of things with less technologically advanced means for thousands of years and committing horrendous acts over the course of that time. So we see maybe a quantitative change since the time of the revolution, but not a qualitative one. And the people at the time of the revolution, the people who wrote the Second Amendment, understood that technology was not standing still. They were using firearms that were more advanced than those that were available 100 years earlier, and they were also seeing developments at that time. There were, for instance, repeating weapons already available in the 1770s, just too delicate and too expensive to be used, in mass circulation. But they could see the future. They had the beginners in the beginning developments, for instance, of machine guns. They had breech loading rifles that actually were used during the revolution, mostly on the British side, but they knew they were there. So it's not as if they thought that the laws they were putting in place, protections for our rights, were only going to ever apply to the technology that existed at that particular moment in history. They understood that it would advance, and they wanted those protections to continue to apply in the future.
JD, is the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms still planning to make a move on AR-15 pistol braces?
My understanding is that they are. I haven't seen the developments on that. I know they've had a lot of feedback on it. I mean, we've also seen, we're also kind of awaiting the finalization. How does the ghost gun thing shake out with the ATF? This actually is really one of the problems of making rules through administrative law, through interpretations of rules rather than through the legislature, is that you kind of wait for, okay, what are they going to decide now is legal and illegal? What will get me thrown in jail tomorrow? Not based on black letter law passed by lawmakers, but based upon what some bureaucrats decide they can get away with doing, how they'll interpret it, and how they'll enforce it in the field when they see a device and say, according to my magic 8 ball, that today is now illegal, even though it was legal last week. So we'll
JD,
find out.
is it a good idea, as if you have an AR-15 pistol brace, to comply with the ATF's supposed amnesty period? Because it's kind of like, I don't know. It just seems like it could be the kind of thing that if you did do it, that they might, put a mark on your record and be like, hey, this person went ahead and, this person did that. Right? You go out and you register that, in this amnesty period, they call it amnesty, but in reality, they're going to keep your information and know that you were a troublemaker in the first place. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to put yourself on the radar of an agency like the ATF, especially when you know the rules are a moving target. Yes, you are going to end up on a list somewhere as somebody who was in violation of their rules. If you're concerned about the pistol brace that you may own right now, take it off, replace it with something legal. And just you can, dispose the pistol brace, you can stick in the back of the closet, not use it, whatever it is. But I would not be volunteering my information to any enforcement agency of government. And ATF does not have a good reputation in any capacity. So I would not want to be on their radar.
Amen. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking to JD Tuchili of Reason Magazine. You can read his latest article over at reason.com. JD, more states poised to ease marijuana laws after Election Day, including my own state of Missouri. Looks as if libertarians have got big wins on this. You wouldn't have seen something like this maybe 10 or 15 years ago, JD, but it seems as if the public has really come along to our side on this issue.
Absolutely. There are 5 states that have marijuana on the ballot, and it looks to be polling well in Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri. Not sure. No, the Dakotas don't have a lot of polling, so it's kind of hard to know where that stands there. But Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri, I would think probably poised to join the ranks of states where marijuana is at least somewhat legal this year. I mean, we've seen a sea shift over the course of about 2 generations in public attitudes towards marijuana. Back in about 1972, support for legalizing marijuana was about 12% of the public. Now it's well over half and has been for over a decade. So, I mean, you're seeing the laws finally catch up where the public is now. Not at the federal level, of course, it's still illegal federally, but the states are where most of the action is. And so I think you're going to see at least 3 of these 5 states legalize marijuana at the ballot this year, at least nominally. And I got to point out, this is the other issue, is that legalizing something doesn't mean that you didn't so bind it up with taxes and restrictions, red tape, that the illicit market doesn't stay vital and lively. California, for instance, probably a third to a half of the market is still illegal because stuff is so highly taxed, so regulated and restricted that it's actually easier to stay underground. And a lot of states tend to do this. We're legalizing it because we have to, but not because we want to. And so we're going to try to mold it in the shape we'd like. And that just keeps the illicit market going. But at least nominally, several states are poised to join the ranks of those that legalize marijuana.
Yeah, the fascinating thing that's happening now, JD, is that here in Missouri, all of the liberty Republicans and libertarians and pro legalization people are actually opposed to this legislation because it creates a licensing scheme that essentially is a cartel. The tax rate wouldn't be too bad, compared to, for example, Illinois next door. But essentially what's happened is that all the usual suspects, the groups and, nonprofits and, organizations that would have been opposed to it have got themselves ready for their investments ready, and now they're ready to make a move to legalize it. Isn't that really just kind of how everything goes in this country, JD? That's illegal, is that the right people have got to get their investments set before something like a legalization effort can pass.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, whenever you end up creating a regime that, in order to function in the legal market, you need a regulatory compliance department, you've already ruled out the possibility of your moms and pops and your entrepreneurs or what have you. It's going to be somebody who's already established, knows what they're doing, knows how to navigate the system, and could afford a bunch of attorneys, right? So you set this up so that your buddies who are already, who've got, venture cap money behind them, can get into that market and dominate it. And that's exactly what happened in California. It's happening in Colorado too, although not to as awful an extent. But yeah, I mean, they legalize this only to the extent that their friends can dominate the industry, not so that small entrepreneurs, people who can go in there and open up a shop and not have to have a lot of compliance people on staff, not so they have any kind of opportunity at all. And to the extent that entrepreneurs are able to function, very often those are the folks who stay in the illegal market, just like things were before was nominally legalized.
Yeah, you hate to see it. JD, one last question before I let you go, related to another article that you wrote over at Reason about declining faith in both capitalism and socialism. Many Americans don't seem to like any economic systems, and they're no closer to agreement. Now, JD, you talk about this poll that shows people losing faith. Democrats losing faith in socialism, Republicans losing faith in capitalism. Right? They don't like ideologies. But I mean, doesn't this kind of really lead to where we're at right now, JD? People become disillusioned with one ideology or another, and we slide towards something like a mushy middle, the centrist sort of view of markets, the centrist view of socialism. And don't we really just there arrive at where we're at right now, market socialism, or, AKA Keynesianism?
Yeah, and then you end up polling people on what they like and don't like, and depending on how they've labeled the system you have, oh, we live in capitalism and it doesn't work, they're unhappy and they want something different. A lot of this has to do with the terminology we use. Frankly, Americans don't know what they're talking about, and that's where we get back into another discussion about school choice. So you can send your kids to a school where they actually get educated on what capitalism and socialism is. What it comes down to is that the Republicans define socialism as Venezuela, and Democrats think that it's Sweden. And those are very, very different places. And if you're aspiring to the one or to the other, it makes a huge difference in what you might want, what you might think you're going for. So yeah, I think we end up with this kind of a mushy, it doesn't really work system with which nobody is happy, and largely because they didn't know what they were talking about when they were asking for it anyway. And at the end of the day, we probably shouldn't have anything directed from the top down, because we all probably want something a little bit different too. We don't all want the same thing. But what we really don't want is whatever we've created at this moment, because it's kind of a mess.
This is such good stuff, JD. We call it big brain time whenever you're on the show, and we're glad to have your big brain here with us this morning. I know it's very early out where you are, so I just want you to know how grateful we are that you get up so early and you talk to us on the phone. We appreciate you very much, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Do you like JD Too Chilly? I think he's a great interview, don't you? You don't get these kinds of interviews anywhere else but on the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. If you like the interview, make sure you give us a like. I saw my buddy Albert, he's over on YouTube this morning. He said, this is a great interview, and I completely agree with the cartel accoutrements that they're trying to crush with it. We've got to let the people do things for themselves, not regulate anything. Yes, completely agree. My friend Charmed One over on Twitch this morning, well, your comment just disappeared before I could read it. Camellia said she loves it when JD Too Chilly is on. We've got about 10 more minutes left to go in the show. I'll comment on all that and more, and maybe we'll take some calls. Ah, there we go. Charmed says, awesome interview over there on Twitch. Well, we're thankful, Charmed, to have you as a follower on Twitch. All of our friends over on Rumble this morning, all of our friends on YouTube, all of our friends on Facebook, give us a like. It's time. We've got to bump up the show in the algorithm. So make sure that you like and share the stream if you can. And we'll be back with more Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you both.
No longer matter. Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts, on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, it's 8:53 and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It's time to rise in freedom. It's a great show today. We had JD2 Chili talking about the president lying about guns. Hal Dooley was in studio. We spoke to Neetu Arnold. We got introduced to a fine young lady talking about student loan debt forgiveness. And of course, everybody's favorite, Camelia Peterson this morning, complaining about the push to ban texting while driving. We still got a few more minutes of the show to go. And I want to bitch about something. I want to complain about social media censorship. If you wouldn't mind, just indulge me for just a minute. Should I do it? Should I do it? Yes. Okay, thank you for your feedback. I will do it. And for those of you who don't know, so I get banned from social media all the time, suspended. So I'm currently on like a 60-day suspension on Facebook. Technically, I'm not supposed to be talking to you right now like this. And it was one of the biggest suspensions that I had, and it's still a big strike on my account, is a meme that I shared. Ordinarily, I would put it up on the stream, but I can't because it'll get taken down. That was a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer. And it was a meme that I had shared a couple of years ago, back when they were telling us during the COVID-19 crisis not to go home to family for Thanksgiving. And it's become an issue again because the Netflix special on Jeffrey Dahmer has come out, and everybody's posting memes of Jeffrey Dahmer, making jokes about Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer is trending, and everybody's talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. Well, 2 years ago, I posted this meme that got me, I think, a 3-month live stream and advertising ban on Facebook's Meta. And the meme said specifically that no one's going to tell me how many people I can have for Thanksgiving dinner, right? Obviously, the joke there is Jeffrey Dahmer was a cannibal, right? And so Facebook banned me and many other people who had shared the same meme for essentially supporting dangerous persons, right? So by posting this meme of Jeffrey Dahmer joking about eating people for Thanksgiving dinner, that was considered support for cannibalism, right? Which, if that were true, if that were the community standard, you're not allowed to show any support for a cannibal who committed heinous violent acts against his fellow man. Well, then you would think that you would not be seeing any Jeffrey Dahmer memes on Facebook, right? Because now that everybody's talking about Jeffrey Dahmer because of the new Netflix special, and I'm sure there's no way Netflix isn't advertising Jeffrey Dahmer on Facebook, right? No, I wonder why. Well, it's because the reason why I got banned was not because I was supporting cannibalism. Obviously, that's a joke. The reason why Facebook suspended me and many others who shared that exact same meme is because we were at the time resisting our unlawful authority telling us that we should not go home to our families on Thanksgiving and spend time with our families. So it's okay to glorify Jeffrey Dahmer as long as you are celebrating only his actual violent acts on TV and in social media. But if you use Jeffrey Dahmer to make a point against lockdowns or against tyranny, you will be silenced and you will be banished into the ether, right? Because Facebook's Meta doesn't have a listed category in their community standards to suspend you for violating a community standard like resisting unlawful authority. But believe me, there is a category for resisting unlawful authority that is hidden away that they're not telling you about. Because again, if you were posting memes of Jeffrey Dahmer, then that was supposed to be equated with supporting dangerous persons or organizations. Then in theory, Netflix shouldn't be allowed to advertise Jeffrey Dahmer, the new Jeffrey Dahmer special, right, on Facebook. Then in theory, you shouldn't be able to post Jeffrey Dahmer memes on Meta, right? Right? Yeah, but and here's the thing. Everybody, when they see that meme, the joke meme, they're like, I can't stop laughing at this. It's hilarious, right? And it reminds me a little bit of Beto O'Rourke from Texas when he complained a couple of years ago about dangerous, powerful right-wing memes. And I have to say that probably that Jeffrey Dahmer meme was probably one of the most powerful memes that we've had in recent years, because it, in a very subtle comedic way, poked fun, lampooned the emperor who clearly wore no clothes. That's why they had to ban that meme, and they had to prevent anybody from sharing it. Not because they think people actually support cannibalism, because that's a joke in itself. It wasn't supporting Jeffrey Dahmer. It was telling people who were telling you not to have Thanksgiving with your family, telling those people to fuck off. And that's why they banned us on the platform. Not because we supported cannibalism, but because we supported resisting unlawful, authoritarian tyranny over our lives. All right, I gotta go. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. It's been an awesome show. Tomorrow's Friday, and that means we're gonna do the giveaway for the sign. Are you signed up yet? Are you a monthly pledger to the show? Because if you're not, then today's the day. wakeupamericaShow.com/support, and you get an entry, right? $5 pledgers, $17.76 pledgers. Everybody gets an entry into that. But if you're not a monthly pledger and you can't afford to, I totally understand. Just by watching the show, I appreciate your support, right? Giving us a like right now, that's a great way to show support. But if you want a free entry when we give away this sign tomorrow, head over to the website, ap4libertyshop.com. And at the top of the website, you'll see, just drop your email and you get a free entry. And tomorrow I'll announce the winner. It could be you. Could be you. Could be you. Could be you. Don't you want to win? This is an awesome sign. We're going to give it away to one lucky winner tomorrow on the Wake Up America show. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
It's morning again in America. Our country is prouder and stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP4Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Oh, Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.